So on today's episode of Mental Health, I've got a colleague of mine by the name of Chris Taylor, and we're just going to be discussing how his mental health has decreased or increased during lockdown. I'm going to be asking him questions on how he's managed to cope with it, if we can pinpoint a specific time when his mental health has either increased or decreased, and yet the coping mechanism. So thank you, Chris, for agreeing to do this interview.
It's a pleasure. It's very exciting.
Cool. So
Well,
go on.
I probably won't be very exciting, but I'm excited to be here.
No, you know what? I'm sure people will. You may not think that what you're gonna say is exciting or helpful, but I'm sure people listening to this be like, oh, Chris went through this and this is how he solved it. So
Yes.
So
Thank you.
can you so first of all, how has your mental health increased or decreased during the lockdown?
Well, I think I've been like a lot of other people. It's been quite up and down. I mean, I try and recognize that I've been in a very fortunate position in that I'm not in a job where I've been put at risk. I'm not a care worker or a nurse or anything like that. So, I've tried to recognize that a lot of people, because of their circumstances and because of inequality, poverty, and so on, have had a much more difficult time than I have had. But I try and think about that first, but then think about, well, I have to judge my situation from where I'm at. I do try and realize I've got a lot of privileges, and that's continued during COVID, and I haven't been one of the people who've been put at risk. But in terms of my own mental health, so after I've got all that out of the way and all the guilt, then I do, think it's important. It's important to recognize, I think, your privileges and your advantages, but at the same time, you shouldn't deny any hardship or difficulties that you have, even if they're mainly in your own head. So, a lot of people have difficulties with their daily lives due to poverty and inequality. Other people like me, I think any problems they have are mainly in their own heads, which I think is still important, but I think it's important to realise that it's a bit different. So in terms of sorry, that's rambled on a bit. In terms of my mental health, it's been up and down. It was, looking back, the first lockdown wasn't too bad, strangely. It seemed a bit strange at the time, but it was also quite new. It was strange, but it was, you could go out for walks. The weather was quite nice. It seemed like you didn't know how long it would go on for, but it didn't seem like it would be too long. So I think that was more bearable. In the summer, things opened up a bit, so it wasn't too bad. I mean, the hardest bit for me, which I think has been for everyone, has been this current lockdown, because it's the third time around. Everyone was really hoping things would improve to some extent. It's been the depths of winter, everything shut down. So I think it's been quite difficult. This one's been the most difficult one, really, for all those reasons. And I think that chimes with what lots of other people have experienced as well. Sorry, go on.
No, I was gonna say that I know that outside work, I know that you're in a band, and so
Yes.
like have you found that you not being able to play with your band or meet up with your bandmates as you used to do on a regular basis do you feel like that has kind of, you know,
Oh yes, it's. I mean, that's been difficult because it's been playing music and playing it with other people has been a massive part of my life since I was about 14, which is, 36 years now. So it's all my sort of adolescence and adult life. I've done that, and this is the first time I haven't been able to do it. So, of course, that has been difficult. Um, we've managed to meet up and play a bit in between lockdowns, in a sort of safe manner when it's been allowed to do so. I can play music at home. I've got a electronic drum kit and I have guitars at home and I can record at home, but which is, I've done quite a bit, but it's, nothing really beats playing music with other people and doing performances. So, I have really missed that. It's very worrying to think about what's going to be left of sort of the music, like things like venues haven't been able to open, so could shut down. And that's quite upsetting to see that happening. Um, well, the potential for that to happen is quite upsetting, I suppose, because a lot of the places where you used to play music are at risk of closing, or the places you used to go and see music. So I'm hoping that's going to be okay and they've managed to survive. I did. There was some things about the lockdown that I kind of, although it's been difficult mentally for everyone, I did quite like the aspect of not having to make too many decisions about things. I don't particularly like making decisions, like not like major life decisions, particularly, or even small decisions. And sort of lockdown's taken away a lot of that, which I've quite liked some aspects of that. You just really have to try and think about now and what you do now, rather
I
than
mean,
trying to plan for the future.
has it made you um kind of appreciate people a lot more? Because I know that you differ off with your partner, so has it made you appreciate, just simple things that like you used to take for granted, like I don't know, like you know, yeah, just simple things that you used to take for granted. Has it made
Yes, it has definitely. My partner's been very important to me. Obviously, I live with her, and I think I would have been quite isolated um, without her being here. I've missed work colleagues. I mean, I didn't think I would. If anyone had said, well, some of them, but I didn't. I didn't. I used to. I've always liked my job, but I didn't. You know, Now I think
with
looking back, it was really enjoyable being in the office with everyone, and I'm sure I never used to think that at the time. But obviously, it's nice seeing you there, and there's a few people who go in, and we all talk, and that's been quite nice because I've got the few people who do go in because I have been going into work for quite a while now. Uh, so I think I've got to know the few people who do go in quite well, which has been quite nice. So we've almost got a little support bubble.
yeah, and so like with your job, you mentioned your job, so I mean, during the lockdown, do you think that like if you didn't have your job, do you think your mental health would have deteriorated a lot more? Because obviously, like I know, like for some people, like especially like either them living with their partner or them living alone, they kind of need that little break, you know, to just kind of okay, well, I've been with this partner 24 hours a day. I kind of need a
Mm.
little break to like kind of meet other people and just kind of get back to somewhat normality. So,
Yes, I mean work. It gives some structure, which is good. I have been going into work. I mean, I did work from home for about 3 months, but I just couldn't handle working from home. It was it was terrible. So I started, and then I got I got labyrinthitis, which is, I think that's what it was anyway. That's what the doctor said. I think it was from looking at the laptop at a funny angle,
Oh, okay.
gave me dizziness, and I had to lie down for about a week. And after that, I started going in to
Okay.
work, and I've been going in pretty much all the time since. But I only work 3 days a week, and I live near work, so it's it's been fine. But yeah, it
Okay.
does give you structure. Going in has been good as well. I mean, I never thought I'd enjoy going to Wood Green, but I was quite glad to see it after I hadn't been there for months.
I
Strangely,
mean, yeah, me coming in the other day, I haven't been in for like months. I'm like, and I went, I'm like, ooh, I even went to one of the colleges. I even forgot what you looked like because I'm so used to seeing them on a video screen like I'm doing you now, and
yes.
me coming in was like, ooh, I forgot what you look like. So yeah, it's good.
Mm.
Do you have any? So in terms of your mental health, has there been like a specific time when it's increased or when it's decreased, and if there has been a specific time, has there been like any coping mechanisms that you've done to kind of help you throughout that process?
Well, when I was working from home, I really found it hard mentally. I used to try and say I know all these things, like you got to have a structure, you got to get up in the morning, like you would normally get ready, have a shower, and so on. But I didn't do any of that. I used to just fall out of bed about 5 minutes before I was due to start working and start, and I just and you know the good thing about working from home is the really boring bits of meetings you can just have a lie down and listen, and then if you
Yeah.
need to say anything, you can jump up and go to the laptop and look like you're there. You know what I mean? Don't tell anyone that.
No, I'm gonna
But,
edit it, don't I?
no, no, I don't. I'm only joking. You can
Oh,
put that
okay.
in. And and I was always falling asleep in the afternoons and stuff. So I couldn't. I just found it hard. But a lot of people like working from home. It's good to have a balance. I mean, I did get COVID in January somehow. I don't know how, but I did work from home then, obviously, because I couldn't go out.
Yeah.
Uh, so I was a bit worried when I got COVID because I have asthma. I mean, it's only fairly mild asthma,
Yeah, me
but
too. I've got my asthma.
yes,
Yeah.
when you've seen all the horrific things that have happened, with people who've already got a respiratory condition and then getting COVID, I mean, I was quite worried, but in the end, I just had a cough, basically, very mild symptoms. Um, but that was quite worrying at first. I did have the vaccine a few weeks ago, which I was very pleased to have. Um, so that's good. Um, in terms of when mental health's been better, I mean, it was a bit better in the summer when everything opened up. But, you know, I think that sense of it, the well-being was a bit false, really, because I think things probably opened up too soon, and that's why we're still having a lockdown now. Partially, the fact that everything just opened up too quickly. So now, even though it's difficult for me and everyone else, I think the government's doing the right thing, doing it quite slowly. But it's still. I think this lockdown is definitely, I think, almost for everybody, been the most difficult one. There is a bit of light at the end of the tunnel, I suppose, with the vaccine and so on. But
So
yeah.
for anyone out there that is struggling with mental health and they don't know what avenue to go down, what would your advice be?
Well, it is important to get out. That's the most important thing I can do. If I stay in all day, I just feel terrible. I think most people find the same thing. To get out if you can, even if the weather's not so good, it immediately lifts your mood. Exercise helps. Like I started running a bit because I used to go to the gym, but obviously couldn't go anymore. So
Yeah.
started running a bit. Did do some skipping for a while, which is quite good. I mean, the problem is if you're feeling down, you are even less inclined to do these things. But it does really help if you can sort of force yourself to do it. Um, yeah, and I think just realizing that it will come to an end, some one way or another. The the vaccine is here. They seem to be getting better at managing the condition. People who've got COVID, so less people, I think, will die of it than did a year ago when they get it. So there are positive things, but structure and exercise and getting out and really help. I suppose even things like reading. I mean, I've found I always read a lot, but now I just find myself doing what I never used to do, which is scrolling down my phone all the time on Twitter and stuff, which is
I know.
probably not very. It's okay up to a point, but it's probably not very good for you because it's it's constantly updating. It's constant stimulation. It's a lot easier than just reading a book. And when I was doing some tidying up books and shelves and everything a couple of months ago, I found loads of books that I just hadn't read that looked really good, and I just thought, why haven't I been reading these? And I thought because I spent too much time scrolling through Twitter, So it's then I did start reading again, and I really benefited from it. Oh, I did used to love going to the library, but of course you can't do that now. But,
Did you because now everybody's got now Netflix, so like did you like ever flick through Netflix or
I haven't actually got Netflix. I mean, I did get the free one you get for a month a few times, but they
yeah.
only let you do that so many times, and then stuff. So I haven't got that. I watch things on iPlayer and that All Four, the Channel 4 streaming
Yeah.
thing. Because there's some good programs on Sky Arts, which you get on Freeview now, and that's good. So yeah, I've watched quite a lot of television. There's yeah, but I try
And
and watch it in the evenings, not in the
yeah.
day too much.
Do you think the government is doing enough to promote mental health? Like, do you think there's a more like a lot of charities that that are out there to promote mental health, or do you think there needs to be more?
Oh, there needs to be a lot more. I mean, the problem with the government is a lot of its policies, not just now, but over the last 10 years, have really damaging to people's mental and physical health. They've increased poverty and inequality. You got people now who even have to rely on food banks because they haven't got enough to eat. A lot of people in very insecure work, very poor quality and insecure housing. And all of these things affect people's mental health as well as their physical health and well-being. So I think, obviously the government's got a lot to answer for in terms of that. They always, all governments say that they want to give mental health an equal priority with physical health, but it never really translates into reality. Um, but it's the way society is organised, I think, causes a lot of mental health problems. Um, I suppose some people have mental health conditions, perhaps because of there's some kind of chemical imbalance in their brain, or there's something like that. But a lot of people's mental health problems are caused by their circumstances that are created by the sort of society we live in. I think we need to change that really.
And also, do you think the last question? Why do you think um in terms of the older generation, why do you think they're not really understanding the whole like mental health stigma?
I think, well, for a long time, it wasn't something people talked about. Even when I was young, it wasn't really talked about very much. You know, you'd had there'd be terms people would use like someone's bad with their nerves, which meant they're basically sort of mentally unwell, but nobody said it. And I think obviously a lot of older people have mental health problems, loneliness, isolation, and other problems, but they don't. It's just the good thing is, I suppose, that young people do seem more aware of it and are more willing to talk about it.
Do,
There
do,
are.
do you think that's because we've got things like, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok? Do you think it's because we've got all these social media platforms where people can, and again, do you think it's because, like, for example, earlier on in the week, the whole Meghan Markle and Harry interview, do you think it's because we got people like them speaking about mental health issues?
Well, people speaking about it, people in positions of prominence like that, I think does help. Um, in terms of social media, um, obviously, I think some people feel it does a lot of damage to people's mental health, particularly young people. But
Yeah.
it's like anything; it's how people use it. It's not inherent. Social media isn't inherently good or bad. It's just about how people use it, and it could be used to provide people with support or to help stop them being isolated. So it could be used in very good ways. So I think it is good for that. It's obviously much easier to keep in touch with people than it used to be because of social media, but people need to use it for positive reasons. And in terms of the royal issue, I think I'm not I don't I'm not a fan of the royal family, but I do think it's really good that Meghan Markle's spoken out about mental health and about racism because she's in a position. I think she's American, which means probably gives her a different perspective on it. I think a lot of things about Britain, like the royal family and this kind of stiff upper lip attitude, probably seem completely ridiculous to people who come from other countries sometimes. So I think it's good to have that sort of outside perspective on it. And the fact everyone's talking about it now, it's like with Black Lives Matter last year and the killing of George Floyd and the debates about slavery. I mean, there were a lot of people who seem to be attacking the fact that people were talking about these things and saying it was being raised in the wrong way. But the fact is, people were talking about them at last, which is a lot better than people not talking about them. And I take that attitude with the royal issue. The fact that people are talking about mental health and about racism, and about the links between the two things together, I think it is a good thing. It's better than not discussing it or try to sweep it under the carpet.
Well, thank you very much, Chris, for your
Was
input.
that all right?
You're fantastic. Thank you. I'm just,
Right.
hold on. Give me 2 minutes.
Thank you. Thank you for asking me.
No problem. Uh,